Good day, guys, and welcome back to your English Aussie. Today, we're going to go through a wildcard draft with Haaland in the team. I know a few of you guys have been calling out for something to show this. Also, we'll run back through the old wildcard without him in the team, see if that still looks good. But firstly, let's crack into running through the wildcard team and also how I'm crafting it and how I think about the wildcard teams and how to set these up. So if we start with the blank template so far, and at the moment I've got 101.2 million. So the wildcard team is going to be based off that team value. I think that's quite reasonable. I think a lot of you guys should be able to be roughly around there, and I'll maybe give a few suggestions at the end if you need to step down, maybe 500,000 or something. And of course, if you have more budget, you can obviously upgrade some of these players. So we'll start off with Haaland, obviously putting him in the side. He's going to be the first guy we put in there. And then we're going to work around thinking about what some of the other premiums that we're looking for and that we'd like to have in the upcoming game weeks are going to be. I think I sort of discussed this previously. The way I like to look at wildcard teams is obviously look at who my key captains are going to be over the upcoming game weeks and who I'm looking to captain. And then I'd obviously target to have those guys in my team as priority. At the moment, probably thoughts around captaincy I've pulled up on screen here between 12 and 20 who I think the best captaincy options are. The main difficulty here is probably in game week 13, where probably Saka's the best captaincy option. Across the other game weeks, you could generally see there's probably one out of Haaland, Salah, Palmer, and Saka who at least have what I would consider a green fixture. 13 is the only one where really it looks like Saka's the only guy that has it in there. So I guess also 14 for Palmer. But I mean, United and Nottingham Forest for Arsenal and City in that game week potentially is better fixtures than obviously Liverpool playing City and Chelsea v Villa. I think it can also be argued that Salah against Man City could be a good game week for him if City don't have a lot of their players back at that point. So we'll obviously have to wait and see on that. But I think the main guy to have at this stage is probably Mo Salah. He's obviously been in great form. He's got good fixtures, really good captaincy options over the next few weeks. I think we'll then have to consider whether to go for either a Palmer or a Saka over the next sort of 8 game weeks. And if you do look at these sort of fixture runs and captaincy options, I think like relative they're pretty close in terms of who you would go for over this period. And the question is like, who are you going to be captaining one of them over these upcoming weeks? If you are, I think Palmer has the potential to probably be more explosive and have a higher upside in any of those weeks. However, as I was talking about in some of my sort of tactical observations, it would be interesting to see if other teams implement sort of this man marking on Palmer to try and push him out to the left and make him a bit less impactful in the games. I think it will be a little bit more difficult for some of the lower teams to do than it was for Arsenal, because obviously Chelsea had a different sort of thought process and set up against them. And obviously Palmer's a great player. He's going to find ways to get involved in the game regardless. But yeah, I just think that's something to consider going forwards. For the time being, I think I would probably pick Palmer over Saka, just as I said, due to his potential to be a little bit more explosive, especially if you're going to have him as a captaincy pick. I think that's important to consider. Then outside of these, I think we then need to probably look at who's going to score us the most points, who's going to be the big high scoring players for us, and we look at those 4 items. So form, fixtures, tactically, and statistically, how people are looking. And I think we'll probably start with the forward line. That's obviously forwards and midfielders are where sort of the big point scoring can come in. And if we take a quick look at our player analysis that we did last week, you can see who the guys are who are really looking good from a statistical basis. And then tactically, I would say Johan Wissa, obviously, just gets into such incredible positions for Brentford with that high footballing IQ. However, the fixtures are not quite there. Over the next couple of game weeks, they're good, but long term, you've got someone maybe with like Newcastle or Wolves that have slightly better fixture lineups. But obviously, three of the four key things: tactically great, statistically great, form excellent. Just fixtures are sort of a medium, so he definitely someone to consider for me. Nicholas Jackson, again, like form and fixtures really good. Tactically, getting much better for Chelsea. He's really learning how to when to drop deep, when to run in between the lines. And statistically, he's obviously fantastic. The only thing for me is I don't like to double up on the offensive players, just because there is a potential that obviously Chelsea have a bad game week, and then suddenly you're looking at double blanks in your team. And for me, it's just preferable to spread the risk over various teams. So therefore, I'm looking at sort of Isak and Cunha. I think Isak's starting to get back into form. His fixtures are good. Tactically, in the Newcastle side, he's becoming that sort of crucial pivot role where the ball is obviously looking to get into him. He's not quite as essential as some of these other strikers. I would say like Wissa, Cunha, um, maybe Jackson's sort of playing similar role to Isak, but those two are much more essential in their respective teams. Um, but I do think Isak's starting to get into form and with some like good fixtures. Obviously, West Ham is a great fixture, probably for Newcastle as well, who are quite quick breaking out in transition. I think Gordon might have a good game against West Ham. As West Ham are so slow defensively in transition, and then obviously Cunha, who's just crucial to everything Wolves are doing. Creatively as well as offensively. I think he's probably the first name I'd put down on the team sheet at the moment. And then the one other guy I would speak about is João Pedro. Obviously, along with Danny Welbeck, I think both um, tactically are like in the correct positions for Brighton. They're going to be in the right places. They're going to score goals. They're going to be involved in all of the Brighton's like attacking link up play that's so well coached by Hertzler. They've got great fixtures. They're both in. I mean, João Pedro came back, goal and assist in 20 minutes, so I'd probably say he's in good form. Danny Welbeck's been in great form. Statistically, they've been great. So I think one of them's really got to fill that other slot. Um, I would say it's between them and a Wissa for me, and maybe an Isak. Um, but I think if you're having Haaland already, Isak's probably going to be too much money in that team. And that's probably also why I'm going to go with João Pedro over Welbeck, just for bit of extra savings in cost. So front line of Haaland, Cunha, and João Pedro, I think that's really good going forwards. We'll work backwards then into the midfield. And obviously being aware that with Haaland in the team, we obviously need to be a little bit careful on the price and and where we're going. So this is how our lineup's looking at the moment. If we move back into the midfield, I think people with good fixture runs over the next few weeks are obviously Bournemouth. Um, Aston Villa don't have bad fixture runs. Arsenal obviously have some good fixture runs. Um, so I think something that's interesting to think about is if you don't have Saka in this side, someone like a Martinelli or a Trossard, definitely people that you could consider, especially with Odegaard back in the side. It just creates more opportunities. I would say Odegaard does look to pass the ball slightly out right more than out left, as they did earlier season. I thought Saka was so crucial to that team. He played such an important and still is playing such an important role in that Arsenal team. But I do think also the other winger is very involved in all of the Arsenal build-up play, and therefore I would definitely consider someone like a Martinelli in the team, just for the fact that Arsenal are so used to giving the ball out wide. If we do look quickly at sort of statistics as well, you can see here Semenyo, Rodgers, a little bit lower down, but obviously with great fixtures. I would say they're both in decent form. My only thing with Rodgers is his finishing is a little bit suspect. And then, yeah, obviously other people to consider: Bruno Fernandes at Man United, but for me, um, it's just probably a difficult one. Like I kind of want to see where he plays in that Amorim setup, and whether United are going to be as successful as they started to become under Rude. So I think that's sort of a wait and see on Fernandes for me. I just don't think he's quite as essential as a lot of people say. I think he's a good pick, especially over the next 2 game weeks, Ipswich and Everton. But yeah, just not 100% sure he's essential in this sort of team. So for me, I'm gonna start with going for a Martinelli at Arsenal, just to cover the fact that we don't have Saka over these game weeks, and also a Semenyo at Bournemouth. And I think the final midfielder, let's come back to them based off price. I'd probably look to go at the moment for sort of a Rodgers, because I'm thinking we probably are not going to have too much money to go for. The back four. So this is what our sort of team's going to look like at the moment in the midfield. The back four, I think Ait Nuri is sort of someone that you've got to have at the moment. Wolves have a really good fixture run. His attacking, like his tactical positions that he takes up is ridiculous. He's basically playing as a winger for them. Obviously, Wolves defensively are not very good, so we are sort of looking for those attacking returns. But again, across the whole of the Premier League, it's very difficult to pick clean sheets at the moment, except for Liverpool, who've been consistent. So I think you've got to be looking for the defenders that do have those attacking return potential. That leads me on to Luca Dean. Luca Dean of Aston Villa. If we switch back over to our statistical analysis, Luca Dean has got probably one of the most for expected goals and assists. He's obviously on corners for Aston Villa. He's on free kicks for Aston Villa, set pieces, both direct and indirect set pieces. And Villa do have a decent run of fixtures. Not amazing from a defensive perspective, and they've not been amazing from a defensive perspective. But I think Luca Dean's been playing well. I think statistically he's got good statistics. From a tactical perspective, he obviously picks up those attacking positions. He's on those set pieces. It's just more like a fixtures one where he doesn't quite hit that. But I think I'd still have him in my team based off the price point and also the potential for attacking returns. Outside of that, I think I would look at somebody like, now that Ben White's been confirmed out with some injuries, maybe a Timber or a Calafiori. I'd probably go for Jurriën Timber at the moment. Just noting that there is, I think Tomiyasu is likely to come back from his injury soon. So there may be some competition for Timber. But I think over the next few weeks in Arsenal's fixture run, it's likely that he's going to be straight in that Arsenal side. And playing at fullback, he just sort of gives you an extra 0.6 mil to play with over that sort of Gabriel option. So we're going to be looking, something like this at the back. I'd say Fabianski is just a locking goal at 4.0 million, the only 4.0 million playing goalkeeper. And then we're sort of looking at 13.5, which is 4.5 million for all the rest of our guys. Fixture wise, I'd say it's probably between a Lewis Hall and then maybe someone like, who else do we have in that sort of defensive lineup? Maybe like a Nottingham Forest defender, like a Moreno, Milenkovic, just over Aina, just because of his price. Is a little bit more expensive. Or obviously trying to stick to around 4.5. I think I'd go with Hull. Newcastle have some nice fixtures over the next few weeks. West Ham, Palace, exclude Liverpool and Brentford maybe, Leicester, Ipswich, and then even running through to 24, like it's not a bad fixture run, and he sort of bedded that down. And then you got 9 million to think about for sort of goalkeeper and final defender. I think the final defender, you can either choose to have like a 4.5 mil, or you can sort of just go for like a 4 million guy. And then the reason I say that is because if you look at Pickford in goal at the moment, and you look at his fixtures over the next few game weeks, he's got Brentford, Man United, Wolves, decent fixtures, and then he's got this Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City from 15 to 18, and again has some few decent fixtures. So between that 15 to 18 period, you go over to Fabianski and look at his fixture runs, and you see sort of Leicester, Wolves, Bournemouth, Brighton, Southampton, 15 to 18. So they actually perfectly rotate as goalkeepers for nice fixtures. So although Pickford's a little bit more expensive, and like I understand if you potentially want to go for maybe a Verbruggen at Brighton, even though they do have been conceding quite a lot of goals lately, but they do have an excellent fixture run, and obviously they have played a lot of the top teams over the first 11 game weeks. They've played maybe you could count United as that: Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham, Newcastle, Liverpool, Man City. Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham, Newcastle, Liverpool. That's 6 out of their 11 have been against some of the top teams, so you would expect them to concede those goals. So I'd say like maybe a Bruggen, maybe a Pickford, either of those reasonable options. Um, I think if you do go for the Bruggen, you allow this last spot to be sort of like a better defender. So say you went for the Bruggen here, you could then go into like a Moreno or someone for Nottingham Forest, 4.4. Just gives you the potential to rotate, but I think the Nottingham Forest fixtures are pretty tough over the next 6 game weeks, and then it's from 19 where Forest's fixtures get really good. So I think that's something to consider. I don't mind this for Verbruggen Moreno. Gives you a bit of extra options at the back. Also, you want to have that sort of potential for rotation over Christmas as well, because of the fixtures, and you're going to want people who are going to be absolutely nailed in that team, especially over that fixture run. And so I think if you go through that team, you're obviously going to, especially in the big teams, going to see a lot of rotation over that Christmas busy period. Maybe some of the smaller teams, you're going to see less rotation. So perhaps you get away with like Moreno, Hall, Timber, just because of Arsenal injury issues, probably going to be starting most of the games. Luka Dean. So I guess these two are sort of like more potential to be rotated for Matson and for maybe like a Calafiori, Tomiyasu. But Arsenal do have a lot of problems at fullback. It's not going to be easy with Ben White probably out for a while after having operation. But Aït-Nouri, Hall, Moreno should be locked. You can rotate the goalkeepers, which is nice. Rodgers potentially might get rotated during that Christmas period with Villa in the Cups. Semenyo, I think, if he is fit post this international break, should be a lock for most games for Bournemouth. Palmer for Chelsea should be pretty locked. He's not going to be playing in any of those European fixtures, it's most likely. Salah, of course, a lock for Liverpool. Martinelli with potential to be rotated for Arsenal. I think João Pedro a lock, Cunha a lock, and Haaland most likely a lock for Man City for most games, potential some rotation. So I think you've got enough cover here that if people do get rotated, it's unlikely they're all going to get rotated in one game week. And you're probably going to be able to field 11 most weeks over that Christmas period. And you can work with the transfers you have for any injuries. So I think this is probably where I'd look to go with my Haaland wildcard. If you do need to save some money elsewhere in your teams, you don't quite have this budget. You could, you've obviously got 0.2 million in the bag. You could potentially downgrade one of your defenders to like a 4 million. You could potentially downgrade a Martinelli to somebody else, or even potentially a Rodgers to like an Ahmad or something like that from Man United, or a Semenyo to an Ahmad of Man United, if we think that he is going to play under Amorim. 4.9 mil, very interesting guy that's going to potentially play frequently. Is there anyone else around that sort of 6 mil price point? Guys, also, if you're enjoying this video, please subscribe to my channel. I'm really trying to build that subscriber base. And I like the video, it really helps the algorithm and gets my content shown more frequently. I really appreciate it if you have watched this far and you are enjoying. Yeah, I think, you've also obviously maybe got an option of like a Smith Rowe, Kulusevski even at Tottenham. Dwight McNeil at Everton. But yeah, I think Martinelli's nice. But yeah, if you do need to save some money, you've obviously got some of those options to go for. Anyway, I think that's going to be our final wildcard team. Thanks a lot if you have watched this far. Really appreciate it. Please remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Really help out. And as usual, I always really appreciate you guys getting through and watching all these videos. Have a great week. Good luck on wildcards. Good luck in game week 12. And I'll see you guys soon. English Aussie out.